All right. Well, we're going to get started. Let me just say I'm happy to host this first session and introduce myself to you. My name is Ron Hance. I'm Executive Director of the Network for Developing Conscious Communities. And you'll get to know a little more about me as we proceed forward this evening. So I would like to have you share your name and your organization that you're representing, if you're representing an organization. Okay. So let me start with Ms. Kearney. Introduce yourself and what organization you're representing. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly, Kearney? Nima?
I'm sorry, I have a new computer. My kids are making noise, but yes, my name is Naima Kearney. I'm representing ASL Garden. That's our group. Is there another organization that is that what you mean by organization?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in the DC area.
Oh, great. Let's go down to Joshua Kroom.
Good evening, everybody. As Ron just mentioned, my name is Josh Kroom, and I am coming by way of Boston, and I am a part of a group with James and Genoa representing the Boston Ujima Project.
Oh, wonderful. Doing good work there in Boston. Doing great work in Boston.
Thank you.
Rick Welch.
Hi, I'm Rick Welsh. I'm a professor at Syracuse University, but I'm working with a group of people here in Syracuse trying to establish a food cooperative. Antonisha Owens and Ani Bellows and I think others are on the call too. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Is your name pronounced Annie Bellows? Am I pronouncing your first name correctly?
Yeah, Ani. Yeah.
Ani. Oh.
Sorry, that was my Virginia accent.
So I'm from Syracuse, and I'm working with Antonisha and Wesley and Rick on that food systems co-op in Syracuse. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, great. Genoa? Am I pronouncing your name correctly, my brother?
Yeah, Genoa. Thank you,
Genoa,
Ron.
okay.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Hi. I'm Genoa Daly. I'm with the Boston Ujima Project. Joshua just mentioned that, and we're located in Boston. Nice to meet you all.
Great. James?
Hi everyone, my name is James Vanboy. I also work at Boston Ujima Project alongside Genoa and Joshua. I'm calling from Philadelphia.
Oh, great.
Nice to meet y'all.
Philadelphia got a lot of highlights this week.
Yes, a lot going on.
Yeah. Let's go to the corner there, Marcia Barnes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I am an independent consultant. I work with the net, who you're hearing from a little bit later in introductions. And I'm a consultant who uses the performing arts to increase education opportunities.
All right. Well, thank you. Deborah Hargrove, excuse me.
Okay, yes, I'm Deborah Hargrove with Market 166 Grocery and Kitchen Co-op in East Point, Georgia, which is right outside of Atlanta.
All right. Karina, am I pronouncing that correctly? Karina? Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
I'm Karita
Hey.
Steverson, and I am wearing two hats. So I am project leading a grocery development in Warren County, North Carolina, called the Front Porch Co-op. And then I also work with Carolina Common Enterprise, which is a cooperative development and technical assistance organization out of North Carolina. And today I met Opal from Market 166, and she's a pleasure. So you guys, I think, are going to be great friends.
Okay. Let me see who I've not. All right. Annette? Brian?
All right. Hello, I'm Annette Bryant, and I am also a transformational consultant. And my company is Butterfly Lotus Healing Sanctuary. And we connect with the children, the youth, individuals, and families on healing through literacy and the arts. And I'm here from Minnesota.
From Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Oh, we were just recently in Minnesota in June.
That's correct. I was right there.
All right. Anita? We can't hear you. Okay, well, we'll come back to you. All right. All right. Bobby? Bobby Morris?
Hi, I'm Bobby. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. I'm currently in the Maryland, DC area, and I'm here representing ASLG.
Right, thank you. Denise?
Hey everyone. Hi Denise. I'm Denise Amory Reid. I'm an associate of Blastfest UK the UK, Birmingham, UK.
All right. Right. Just reminded us, 11 o'clock over there.
Yep. Dedication.
Yes, that's commitment. All right. All right. I'm trying to read. Is it Parifa? Is it Parifa?
Are you referring to me? It's Fariha.
Oh, Parifa. Okay.
I'm from the DMV area, and I'm also with ASL Garden.
All right. Okay. K? KQ? KO. Oh, excuse me. Kendra? All right.
Hi, I'm Kendra Klein. I'm with Hive Mind Community Investment Cooperative. We're in Athens, Georgia, and I believe Karina and Tamika are here with me.
All right. All right. Lashana? Or is it Lawanas?
Oh yes, this is LaShonda. I'm
Okay.
from Richmond, Virginia, and I'm representing ASL Garden. And I'm currently in Arlington, Virginia.
Okay.
Everyone.
Right outside DC.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Marie Ray?
Hi, I'm Marie Ray, and KO is my member associate, but he's in his car, so I don't know if he'll be able to talk. But I'm here right outside of Washington, D.C. in Silver Spring, and we are forming we're currently calling the tax co-op.
Oh, okay. All right. Pamela James.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pamela James. Actually, I represent 3 organizations. That's Life Source Systems, Agrobiotics, Environmental, and West Valley Farms and Campsites. So what we're doing is dealing with farm and food and, bringing the community together with various programs that we want to help people create cooperatives. So thank you. I'm out of Buffalo, New York.
Oh, all right. Thank you, Pamela. Pamela, are you applying for any EPA Region 3 funding?
Have we applied for EPA? Some of the people in our network have done that. Some of our networks. I'll talk to you more about it.
All right. Okay, great. I think we're Pamela James, Paulette.
Paulette Hakeem from Blastfest. Anita said her mic isn't working. I'm based in Birmingham, UK, but I'm in Egypt at the moment.
Ooh, all right. International, okay. All right. Big Welch, I got Tamika.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tamika Money. So I'm currently located in Athens, Georgia, and I'm here in part of a team. I think there's 3 of us on here, Hive Mind.
Great. And Wesley?
Hello, my name is Wesley Royd Fox. I am Syracuse, New York. I'm the founder and director of We Build, We Grow, community-based organization in Syracuse, focused on tackling food insecurities through sustainable urban agriculture. I'm here with Antonisha Owens, Rick, and Ani, developing a community and farmer-owned co-op, trying to make some changes in our community.
Great. Great, great. I think I've gotten through everybody. If I've missed calling your name, can you go ahead and say who you are and what organization you're representing?
I can jump in. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Joanna Dorsey. I'm here a part of Ms. Pam James' team. We represent Black Farmers United of New York State, and I'm calling from Brooklyn.
Oh, great, great, great. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anthony Owens here in Syracuse, New York, and you heard from my team, Ani, Rick, and Wes, and we're basically going to be opening up a community and BIPOC farmer-owned cooperative here in Syracuse.
Yes. I think that, have I gotten to everybody?
My name's Karina Gallagher. I'm with Hive Mind in Athens, Georgia.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Like I said earlier, I'm happy to be here with all of you. I'm going to just share a little bit about who we are with you. Again, this Co-op Academy is being hosted by Network for Developing Conscious Communities. Our motto is that we're elevating consciousness in community development. I do want to share the logo that we've inscribed. It's a symbol of change for time and life changes. And the name of the logo is Manira Dane. We were established in 2014, and our mission statement is to renew and inspire collective consciousness and community development through intentional engagement that builds sustainable power in Black communities. Our vision is to fully engage Black-led community development organizations in the conscious rebuilding and restoration of Black under-resourced and disinvested communities through creating transformational paradigm shifts in community development. So that's who we are. Our guiding principles is that we seek to foster the conscious development of indigenous community development where spiritual principles are strongly rooted in development projects and leadership. At the core of our work is the practice of sharing the knowledge of spiritual principles to create positive attitudes, eliminate negative beliefs, and develop collective minds. We do have 4 community development projects that we work in the space of. Our most recent one is the Ellen Baker Women's Business Center, which we have launched in Baltimore, Maryland, a center for women entrepreneurs to explore their gifts and talents, and we support them with wraparound technical assistance services. You're part of the Black Coopnomics Academy, which has now been in operation for 5 years. It's a 12-week academy, and you'll learn more about the academy as we facilitate these other 11 sessions beyond here. Also, too, we work in the small business space, and so we're hosting small business workshops to hopefully help grow the platform for small businesses in Baltimore. And lastly, we are involved in affordable housing development, and we're just entering into the space. And so this is a new space for us. And so we're really excited about the fact that we'll be in Baltimore developing some affordable housing initiatives to support families, individuals seeking housing needs. All right. Our social media connections are Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. And so you can follow us there on any of those 3 sites. And can I ask that you mute your microphones if you have them open? All right. This webinar is being recorded, will be listed up on our YouTube page. Your microphones are muted unless you are speaking. If you're invited to speak, remember to unmute yourself and then mute again once you've finished. Use the chat function for relevant questions and comments. If you're speaking or asking a question, keep it brief and to the point to respect everyone's time. Allow the presenter to manage the time and follow the agenda, especially during Q&A. And do not share or report any part of the webinar without permission from the host. And some content may be proprietary or confidential. So those are the webinar rules to follow. Any questions about anything that I've presented thus far? Any questions about the organization work that we do, about our programs, about the webinar rules? Okay. All right. All right. Well, good. Well, I will say a little bit about this academy. We started this academy about 5 years ago to specifically engage more Black people, people of color in cooperative work. And so we've run the academy now for 5 years. We took a session off last year to regroup and reorganize. And so we're back this year, and I'm really excited that we have 9 teams that have registered. So I'm really looking forward to engaging with you all, learning from your experiences. I'll share my experiences, but really this is about collective learning and sharing out in terms of what we are working on collectively together. I'm hopeful that you'll use the participant directory to connect yourselves with each other, to get to know each other, to share across the boundaries your work that you're collectively engaged in. I think the most important thing about cooperatives is the last principle 6, about being a cooperative in a cooperative space. So I think that that there's gonna be a lot of opportunities for you to share out your work with each other and grow and hopefully build some relationships beyond this academy. All right. So let's get into the meat of what we're here to talk about today. Okay. 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 The first session that I like to go through, and hopefully we'll get through most of these slides before we leave out at 8 o'clock, is really the education about the Black cooperative movement, the principles and cooperative, and going over the principles and the cooperative types. This session will cover Black cooperative movement, cooperative definition and types, and cooperative principles. First of all, I want to share what a cooperative is. And a cooperative is a business which is voluntarily owned and controlled by the people using its services. It may be operated as a nonprofit or for-profit entity. Is anyone and you can tie this definition, it's sort of narrow, but you can broaden the definition of what a cooperative is based on what your experiences are and how you approach the work of being in a cooperative. Did anyone else have another definition they'd like to share of a cooperative? Okay. All right. Okay. Well, let's look at the Black cooperative movement post-enslavement. You know, African Americans have always utilized cooperation since the first Africans arrived as indentured servants in the early 17th century in the shores of North America. The first recorded cooperative efforts were mutual aid societies that were recorded in the 18th century. The first organized cooperatives were formed by African women in South Carolina at Columbia River Colony. They grew cotton and on abandoned land, farmland, remaining independent and eventually becoming a community of several hundred women. After the Civil War, Black farmers started the Colored Farmers National Alliance and Cooperative Union, where the Southern Farmers Alliance would not admit Black farmers except in separate chapters. And by 1891, the cooperative had more than 1 million members. In the 1880s, the Colored Farmers Alliance formed to establish African American leadership and control over racial agrarian reform in the South. Members of the organization shared agricultural techniques and innovation and coordinated cooperative efforts for planting and harvesting. The organization promoted alliances between farmers and laborers and was active in local and regional politics to maintain rights for African American after Reconstruction. Best estimates are that the organization had over 1 million members and was the largest Black organization of its time. By 1896, Cooperative Union was gone, but in 1922, the National Federation of Colored Farmers formed to increase Black farm ownership and improve farm businesses through cooperative buying, production, and marketing. Tenant farmers and sharecroppers joined the cooperative, And by the time it ended 10 years later, most members have been able to buy their own farms. So this is the some of the first work about building out cooperatives in the U.S. It was happened mostly post-slavery, but it was the first time that really the Black folks have really gotten together as tenant farmers, working the land, shared resources to build out cooperative efforts. In Ruthville, Virginia, the Blacks operated Mercantile Cooperative Company, which was established in 1901. The company also raised money to build a new school, Rockdale Equitable Pioneers. African American cooperatives stressed education, hosting study groups and evening classes. By 1907, W.B. Du Bois wrote a monograph as part of his Atlanta University series entitled Economic Cooperation Among Negro Americans. Du Bois explained that Blacks had pooled resources through churches, mutual aid societies, fraternal organizations, and jointly owned businesses. Mutual aid societies and beneficial societies provided joint purchasing and marketing, revolving loan funds, health care, support for widows and orphans, and death benefits. Many were founded and headed by Black women. And what you begin to see early on, if you've not picked this up, was Black women were very instrumental in the formation of cooperatives, Black cooperatives in the early years and the later years. These mutual aid societies were the procurers of the African American owned cooperative. Often white landowners, insurance agents, banks, and even the federal government created barriers to thwart the success of those businesses by raising the rent, refusing a line of credit, withdrawing an insurance policy, or even accusing the company of fraud. This will also happen with Black co-op businesses. At this time, Du Bois documented 154 African-American owned cooperative businesses. This was in the early 1900s when Du Bois was doing this work. He was writing and doing the work. He was one of the main drivers of cooperative businesses in the early 1900s. Du Bois' work provided cooperative economic education and inspired Black leaders to start consumer cooperative in their own communities. So he spurred a lot of this work around early formation of cooperatives. In 1918, Du Bois founded the Negro Cooperative Guild to provide cooperative economic education, inspire Black leaders to start consumer cooperatives in their communities. And one of the cooperatives inspired by the Guild was Citizen Cooperative Stores in Memphis, Tennessee. And this is the book that Du Bois wrote, Economic Cooperation with Negro Americans. And you can pull this down offline. It's certainly available for your reading and your education, because I think it's important to get the history of the formation of Black cooperatives. It's important because nothing starts in a vacuum. And the work that was promoted early on to establish Black cooperatives really was an earmark of the future work of building out this movement that we see today. Black cooperatives during the Jim Crow era, in the late 1920s, Booker T. Washington is a Black Negro business league, created the Colored Merchants Association, a co-op independent Black grocers around the country. The plunder and destruction hit the Black community of Greenwood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in 1921. So again, we've seen this pushback from white-led groups to thwart the formation of Blacks getting together, forming cooperative businesses and working cooperatively together. And here's a picture of the boys with members of the National Negro Business League. It was taken in Indianapolis in 1898, I think it was. Also, I mentioned Black Wall Street, which was a network of Black ownership in Greenville, Oklahoma, where they had 600 businesses, 21 churches, 21 restaurants, 30 grocery stores, 21 movie theaters, 2 movie theaters, 6 private airplanes, 1 hospital, and 1 bank, and its own school system. So again, here we see Blacks working collectively together to build out economic sustainability in the early 20s. This is a picture of the Dreamland Theater that was the only colored theater in Tulsa, Oklahoma at the time, and it was later burnt down to the ground with many Black homes and businesses. Is anyone familiar with Greenville, the small community in Tulsa, Oklahoma?
Yes, I've read about it, but not extensively.
Yeah.
Yes, I was in a play. I did a play. We did it twice. Oh, in about 2009. So I'm very familiar with the story of the city and what happened.
Yeah, it's a sad testimony to the work of Black folks to organize and maintain themselves, and the sad testimony in terms of how people reacted to that out of their own insecurity.
Yes, Mr. Hands, I'm familiar with it. I started in the city of Buffalo, business development like you're doing there in Washington, and it still runs today, where this is one of our go-to stories to Black people about, like how Black people cooperated among each other and built what they built, and how we can still do it today. So yes, I'm very familiar with it.
Yes, yeah. Well, it's certainly it's a testimony to the will of Black folks to come together, to cooperate, to build out economic sustainability. Because the thing that made this community of Greenville so rich was that Black folks didn't just work in Greenville; they worked throughout Tulsa, but they spent their money collectively in Greenville. So that's what really created the wealth of Black folks in the city at this time, because they spent their money there in banks, in stores, and in the theaters, and all the business operations that went on. Again, there were 600 businesses. 600 businesses. That's just unheard of in today's time. 600 businesses. All right. In 1930, the Young Negroes Cooperative League was founded with a mission to gain economic power through cooperation. Ella Baker was the league's national director, and she went on to help form SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, one of the seminal groups of the civil rights movement of the 20th century. And Ella Baker was a wonderful organizer. She organized not only SNCC, but also she organized youth with the NAACP. And she went on to do great work forming organizations and supporting the work of Black folks. Here's a picture of Ella Baker. All right. And this is a Wedge Community Food Store that was located in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Again, Black economic at the pinnacle of the cooperative work. The Black co-op movement in the civil rights era. In the 1960s and 70s, the majority of civil rights organizations were quietly supporting co-op development. Co-ops were still considered communist following McCarthy era. Joseph McCarthy was a senator from, I don't know where he was from, but he certainly had a disdain for Black folks, as well as anything that he thought was communist. So he mounted campaigns through Congress to eliminate and dismantle anything that he thought was communist. And so he did do a lot of work in terms of dismantling the co-op movement. In 1966, community organizers on Capitol Hill worked with Greenbelt Consumer Co-op. Greenbelt Consumer Co-op is still operating today. It was formed back in the 1930s with the help of Eleanor Roosevelt, and it's still operating in the Greenbelt today. Is a housing co-op as well as a food co-op they have there. And in 1967, the Freedom Quilling Bee came along, another effort to promote cooperative organization among Black folks, and that still thrives today. In 1969, after fighting for civil rights for decades, Fannie Lou Hamer started an affordable housing program and collective farm called Freedom Farm.
That's the one I was waiting for.
Yeah, Miss Hamer, she was a fighter.
Yeah, yeah.
She was a fighter.
I actually just got finished reading for the second time her book. Well, not her book, but the book on for Freedom Farm is great. Yeah. Anybody in the ag space, I would recommend that book too, because it's
I haven't read the book, but would you like to share some of the epilogue within the book?
So I think the biggest takeaway was just I think it really gave you an extensive look on how collaborating outside of just your specific industry can really help you build things. Like she worked a lot with Tuskegee and some of the other prominent people within the movement that really helped to get the co-op started. And I think what got me the most was just trying to understand why we can't do this again, and what is so different with this generation of people. Like where have we lost our footing to think that we cannot or that it's just unfathomable for us to kind of build these things again, because she worked so hard and you really saw the ups and the downs of how your average business just operates, the problems that she ran into and how she overcame them, was able to get another fiscal sponsor in order to keep the co-op going, and finding innovative ways to pivot every time that she reached that she reached kind of like a closed door. So it was just amazing to read just about her resilience and also just like I said, the cross collaboration. And I think that that's really, really key with building up businesses, especially ones like this, like cooperatives, like understanding who in your immediate community or even outside of your community has some of the resources that you need. But it might, like, so if you're in agriculture, tapping in with people that are in like the mental health space and the restaurant space, just different industries that even housing, and understanding how y'all can put your resources together, because building up one thing that touches like multiple industries. So yeah, I would definitely recommend the book because it gives you a lot of ideas, and the history there is just like so rich.
You know, there's a school of thought that segregation was a key to Black folks building businesses, collaborating with each other, and that when we integrated into white society, we sort of forgot our learned lessons about our collective journey together, and so we begin to think and act as if white folks had the end on what it meant to be in a collective space. But during the segregated times, we had much more unity, if I can use that word, unity among Black folks than when we entered into integration. Just my thought. No, just my thoughts. All right. So we've now moved from the early 1900s into the 20s, dealing with Jim Crow, dealing with all that bigotry that was going on during that time, to still grow out Black cooperatives in the 30s and the 40s. Ella Baker, Fannie Hamer, they all being a part of it. And now we're moving into the 70s. And so, again, there was a movement in the 70s to grow Black cooperatives, and particularly in Washington, D.C. During the early years of SNCC, a lot of those organizers came to Washington, D.C. Byron Ruskin, Cornbread Givens, Mayor Berry, they all came to Washington, D.C. And so here they were now working on ideas around how to spur and grow economics in the Black community. And one of the things they went back to was cooperatives. And so here we are in the space of now going back, relearning our old lessons about how can we best come together to build out sustainable Black businesses and support collectively Black economic development. So here we are now in the 70s, doing the same work that was going on in the 20s and the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s, and now we're moving now in the 70s. All right. All right. In 1968, you know, the Poor People's Campaign was organized by Dr. King. Unfortunately, he was assassinated before he saw the realization of that campaign, but the campaign still went on during the April of 68. And out of the movement came a movement. It was the Poor People's Development Foundation. And so some of the organizers, early organizers, got together and said, hey, listen, we're going to work on building out sustainable businesses through cooperative practices. So they went back again to the Black cooperative movement. And so So Cornbread Givens, who was one of the main organizers during that time, along with Byron Ruskin, sort of spearheaded the formation of the Poor People's Development Foundation. And the Poor People's Development Foundation, again, came out of the movement of the Poor People's Campaign. So while they were still there advocating against the war in Vietnam, advocating for poor people rights, advocating for the government to put more resources in supporting poor indigenous individuals, these folks had said, okay, we're going to sit down and we're going to work at developing an organization that will be primarily focused on developing cooperatives. So Cornbread Givens was very instrumental in 1980 in Marion Barry adopting some of his economic policies around co-ops in the District of Columbia. Yeah. And so also too, this group of individuals, which was not only just Black, they were like Chicanos, they were clergy, they were union. They had a wide breadth of people working in a space of collective organizing. And so one of the things that did come out of their movement was the formation of the first nationally chartered cooperative bank, which was called the Consumer Cooperative Bank at the time, which now is labeled, is changed its name to National Cooperative Bank. But that's what the work, again, the work of the cooperative movement had did out of the Poor People's March in Washington in 1968. Phenomenal work, phenomenal work. And a lot of it doesn't get attributed to Cornbread Givens, but he worked tirelessly bringing Southern products from the South, vegetables, into the Northern markets, building out training centers along the East Coast where people could go and learn about cooperatives. I learned about this group just by coincidence one night researching some Black movements and around cooperatives, and I ran across a letter that was pinned on that letterhead, and so it really, again, speaks to their ability to work and grow and develop the framework for what I consider now the Black cooperative movement. Byron Ruskin, we need in every community a group of angelic troublemakers. And if you know about Byron Ruskin, he was one of the main organizers of the 6-3 March in Washington. While he didn't get to participate, he was one of the main organizers. And the reason he didn't get to participate because he was gay, and the FBI was going to expose him. And so they went to Dr. King and demanded, and with some other Black leaders, demanded that Dr. King not involve him in furthering the movement. But Byron Ruskin was a wonderful organizer, a wonderful organizer.
I have a question when you get a chance.
Go ahead.
Yes, my question is going back a slide or two for Mr. Cornbread, was that the same story that you told us in the conference about the bank that actually started? I mean, actually the organizations, how it started off as a Black cooperative and then it became a bank, and is that the same thing?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I want to know, was that the same context? Thank you.
Yeah. Cornbread Givens was I tell you, it took visionaries during that time, and to hold the vision of a collective working of people together, and it had to be challenging because of the time that they were working in. it had to be challenging for them, but they continue to do the work. They continue to build out the framework for cooperative movement in the 70s and in the 80s. And unfortunately, the Poor People's Development Foundation, here's a picture of Marion Barry and some of his earlier SNCC organizers. Unfortunately, the organization ran into some troubles, not on its behalf, but on some of the other people's behalf, and was disbanded back in the early 80s. But their work is still so relevant today. And so at the National Conference on Black Cooperative Agenda, which was one of their conferences, we decided to hold up the name of the conference. And so we now have entered our 4th year of organizing this conference to bring together Black folks in terms of cooperative work. And hopefully, so I know some of you here on this call have attended our past conferences. And we're looking forward to 2025 and hosting our 4th conference. We haven't decided on where that's going to be hosted, but it's coming together. Any comments up to this point in time? Because I'm not running through this pretty briskly.
I don't have any immediate questions.
Comments? Well, ask yourself the question: where are you at in your cooperative movement? Are you doing the work in terms of the study of previous Black cooperative movements?
So
go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say, so at BFU, Black Farmers United, we had we have subcommittees within the membership body, and we had a group, a committee, our cannabis and hemp committee, and we were looking at creating a co-op, a cannabis co-op, for quite some time, and we spent probably a little over 2 months really trying to develop it out, doing the research, understanding, but it took a lot. I think what we were lacking was kind of like that foundational piece, because I think what we did was dive right into, reading the laws, and because everything was so time sensitive with that, when you're dealing with something like cannabis, because the laws, you needed to be able to get your applications in and things like that in order to meet certain requirements and deadlines. So we were like crunch for time without really having the opportunity to take the something like this, where we're learning about the history and understanding the why, and understanding the blueprint that those before us had kind of followed, and being able to put it in perspective that way before actually getting into actually doing the work. So I'm feeling really appreciative for being in this space. And again, thank you to Ms. Pam James for having you come and speak to our policy and advocacy group, so that we could even know about this program to begin with. But I think with individuals who may have tried and not had a lot of success with it, I think that it might be just the lack of having that foundation to kind of get started. I think we all kind of had the passion to get into it, but really, taking the time to really start from the very basics and build up, and understanding that it's not like a race, you can take your time with it, because great things take time to build. So I think that's what's coming up for me, and how I'm kind of feeling about being in this space right now, and just excited about moving forward with it, and then being able to take this information and disseminate it between our members, and really being able to hopefully get a co-op going in the agriculture space with our farmers, in the Black farmers movement in New York State.
Yeah, that's the work that's before all of us in terms of cooperative work. I know that sometimes the panacea is that that it's gonna come quickly and without any struggle, but nothing comes without a struggle.
Right.
And the biggest part to building a co-op is building the relationships.
Mm.
It's relational. And I think that sometimes we think it's transactional, but it's relational. It's about how we develop relationships with each other.
Mhm.
Because that is going to be the telling testimony of how the cooperative grows.
Yeah. I think it's about building that trust amongst each other as well.
Yes.
I think that's kind of where we lack in some areas in our community.
We say that a lot in my organization is that co-ops move at the speed of trust.
Yes.
I like that. I like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Any more comments?
In terms of trying to get people to understand what the opportunities that exist, what I'm beginning to see is that it really is about that acculturation piece or the cultural literacy of how we've come, what's happened in the past and how we were able to succeed. Oftentimes I'll see stories or I'll see a one-liner or I'll see a fact. And I'll think to myself, well, how were they able to do that? Because we just seem so disjointed now. So this is a history that, you just don't know. But if you did know, you would literally move differently in the world. And that's why I appreciate this a lot, because you make different decisions. And like you said, so much is transactional in our culture and in our society that even people who want to work together, they're still functioning on that transactional basis and not the relationship basis. And while, the tech bros, et cetera, can form relationships, and in Kansas, the CPAs and the people in the farm service agency, they can form relationships. We don't have that infrastructure to do that. And I think we need to acknowledge that so that we can consciously form these relationships in order to communicate and have those exchanges.
So well put.
I think, Ron, the last comment the comment that I'll make before you move forward, when I was listening to the history, I see that there were, you said they're like the Green Belt movement co-op still exists today, and there are a few others that still exist today. I think it would be interesting to look at some of those co-ops and why they still exist today versus the co-ops that do not exist today. And I think when we talk about trust, and we're talking, but when you think about the kind of atmosphere that all of those co-ops had to exist in and fight through, the racism, the sexism, all that, some of them still survive to be a model for us today. And I think that's very huge. But just why didn't some of those others survive? I think we're right hitting the nail on the head when we're talking about trust.
Yeah. Building trust. Yeah. It's a process. It's not linear. No, it's not linear. Trust building is not a linear process. It's a process that takes you through and over and under. And it's a process that will challenge you. But if you stay fast in the belief of who you are, you're able to accomplish great things. And so someone mentioned where we are today, and I think that's where we're working ourselves back to, area of trusting each other. But it's not going to happen as somebody envisioned in a quick pro quo. It's going to be a process. But what would it be if it would not be a process of growing and experiencing each other? So yes. But again, I think that, going back and looking at integration and looking at segregation, I think that when we were segregated, we were able to build a trust factor among ourselves because we had no one to rely on but ourselves. And so there's a lesson to be learned in the transition of building trust. Anyone else want to share anything of their experiences?
I just want to make a comment. Like, I think a lot of it just from being in spaces, I think we have this fear of white supremacy. Like, we have this like fear of that, there's always somebody that's gonna knock us down if we try, even though we work hard and we find ourselves educating ourselves and we want all these great things, but we still like subconsciously have this mind state, our people do, of somebody's gonna come and destroy it. They're gonna take it from me. It's like how do you educate yourself and try to build so much, but then subconsciously you have this fear of someone knocking it down or taking it from you. So and I see it's been spoken in so many different rooms. And it's like a contradiction. It's like, okay, so what are we doing here? Are we gonna build or, because when you're building, you don't think about anyone else or someone coming knocking it down. Like, take out that, creativeness, that fun when you're building, those connections that you have with each other. You take a lot of that away when it's like, okay, so are we here just because to say we in the room with each other? So you could go back and say, oh, I took this class or I did this and I did that, but you're not materializing anything. And that's what I see a lot within our community. A lot of things don't get materialized, or they start to get materialized, but it be interpersonal issues that is amongst everybody, their own traumas, things that they went through, things that people said to them, and they bring it into the room and they don't know how to check themselves internally. Like they have like these triggers, and that's just something I notice with people. And I think just taking this class and getting, educated more. I'm also doing a lot of my own personal interpersonal work, and I'm recognizing when people are saying things. I'm learning to be more of an active listener, and I'm learning to be more like, what are your needs? Like having more empathy for them, and like looking at everything, all the relationship as a whole and not just individualistic. Because I think sometimes we work so hard and we struggle so much, and we don't have this history. This history was taken from us, and it's like now it's being brought back to the forefront, and we're so amazed that, wow, we really got along with each other. Like we actually shared money, like we actually helped. It's like and it's like, yeah, we did. Like, that's a part of our culture. But I think so many different traumas were put on us that it just got lost. So the family, the unity, and it's like we're relearning all of this again. And I think as we're relearning all of this again, we have to make a conscious decision to, when we're present in the rooms, to check ourselves when we're having those, moments of a trigger or somebody saying something, because they don't know you in the room. They don't know anything about you. So I'm gonna stop right there.
Well, you brought up a great point about the fear of taking away, because even when we as a people disengaged ourselves from mainstream white society and went off and developed our own towns or portion of a town, they came back at us. And so that has left psychologically on us historically some trauma. And it's like, well, damn if you do, damn if you don't. They don't want me here, but when I go off and do my own thing, they still come after me. And so they keep coming. And until we get to a point where, as you said, that we recognize our own strengths, our own abilities, and acknowledge our own God-given gifts to each other, we're going to struggle with this. We're going to struggle with it. And yes, some of us do come to a point of overcoming, but we want to see everybody, at least most of us, in the space of recognizing our own abilities and our own strengths. So it's going to take a lot of continue to take some work to do to deal with the trauma that we've gone through. I do want to say, I think it's a good time to say this here. This academy is only a 12-week academy. And it's intended to give you some basics, but the real work will come from your efforts to enlarge your territory and grow in your knowledge and your understanding of cooperatives. So I just want to preface that this is only just a tidbit of what the work really is commanding from all of us. So I just want to share that as well. Okay. So all right. So I am quite sure all of you are familiar with the principles of Nuga Saba. And so these 7 principles are, I think, really pivotal and critical for us to embody in the work that we do. I think Dr. Ron Karinga, when he came up with these 7 principles, he had a clear understanding of what he was trying to have us learn, and not only learn, but have us practice as a part of our everyday living. And so the first principle, Ujama, means unity, to strive for and maintain unity in the family, community, race, and nation. The second principle, Kukatakalia, self-determination, to define ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves. The third principle, Ujima, collective work and responsibility, to build and keep our community together, to make our brothers and sisters' problems our problems, and to solve them together. Principle 4, Ujama, cooperative economics, to build and manage our own stores, shops, and other businesses, and to profit from them together. Let me slide out to the next slide there. Principle 5, NIA, purpose. Make as our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. Principle 6, Huma, creativity, to do always as much as we can in the way we can in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited. And principle number 7, Imani, faith, to believe that all our heart in our parents, our teachers, our leaders, our people, and the righteousness and victory of our struggle. I put these 7 principles in place in this platform because I think they embody the work that we need to do. But recognizing that we all are part of a collective community. And so as you take this walk, consider, adopting, if not all these principles, at least some of these principles in your work. And you'll find that as you build out your work and you build out sustainability around your work, you'll see yourself prosper. Because this work that we're doing is not for us. And I want to perfect. It's not for us, it's for generations. We're doing generational work. And that's the work that we have to be able to embed in what we do, generational. Generational. It has to be building for the future. Right. All right. So here are the international cooperative values, the values of which the modern cooperative movement was founded, and the basis for the organization of every cooperative enterprise in the world today are equity, carry businesses in a way that fair and unbiased, equality, each member has a right to be treated the same and with respect. And that's one of the real underlying principles of a cooperative and democraticness about being in a democratic cooperative is that one person, one vote. That's it. One person, one vote. No matter what your role is or how much you contribute, it's still one person, one vote. Self-help. Help people while they help themselves by working together. Self-responsibility. Take responsibility for and answer to your actions. Democracy. Give members an equal say and a right to contribute. Solidarity. Shared interests and common purpose with members in other cooperatives. So those are the underlying international cooperative values of how they see cooperatives. I'm going to also share with you the Eurocentric cooperative principles. Number 1 is voluntary and open membership. Anyone can join a co-op. They don't discriminate based on gender, social, racial, political, or religious factors. Well, I would say that it'd be true in practice. It's not true in practice because there is discrimination among cooperatives. Right now the cooperative movement is headed and led by white cooperatives, and we are fighting. We're fighting to change that paradigm. But also, too, we're fighting to create a new paradigm, a paradigm shift. And the paradigm shift that we're looking at creating is to build a Black cooperative movement so that we can stand on equal path, on equal boundaries with white-led cooperatives. Democratic members control. Members control their business by deciding how to run and who leads it. It's democratically controlled. Again, as I said, one member, one vote. Members have economic participation. All co-op members invest in their cooperatives. This means people, not shareholders, benefit from a co-op's profits. So once you are part of a cooperative and you meet the criteria of joining, then there's a shared value in terms of economic participation. Autonomy and independence. While making business deals or raising money, co-ops never compromise their autonomy or democratic member control. education, training, and information is the fifth cooperative principle. Co-op provide education, training, and information so that members can contribute effectively to the success of their co-op. Number 6, cooperation among cooperatives. Co-op believe working together is the best strategy to empower their members and build a stronger co-op economy. And number 7, concern for community. Co-ops are community-minded. They contribute to the sustainable development of their communities by sourcing and investing locally. So what I say is this here, take what you can use, take what applies to you, and use it to your best benefit. What you can't use, and holds the relevancy for you, leave it where it is. So I just wanted to lay out these Nugo-Saba principles versus your Eurocentric cooperative principles to you. All right. Well, okay. Any comments about that? Okay. Well, chew on it. Chew on it. Chew on it. Because at some point in time, you're gonna come be faced with principles that you're gonna practice in terms of your cooperative. Because the cultural principles are gonna keep you binded, will keep you connected to one another. And so I have mentioned it, but I would also say that, how many of you have read Collective Courage? The book by Dr. Jessica Nibab. Who's read that book?
I have.
Okay. Anyone else has read it? Well, I would certainly recommend that you put that on your to-do reading list. Because the book is full of so much wealth and so much perspective. Dr. Nibam has put a lot of energy into that book, bringing this cooperative movement back to us, because it sort of drifted away from us. So she's worked at bringing it back through her writing, her research, and I think that she has a 10th anniversary of the book that she's working on now. So stay tuned for it. But if you haven't read it, read it. And I would suggest that as a group, that maybe you might want to exercise a study group around that book, because it really offers so many learned lessons about cooperatives, particularly Black cooperatives, and what we need to do in terms of working together to build out the sustainable practice around what a cooperative is, should be, and how do we grow it. All right. So I just want to touch on the types of businesses that cooperatives are engaged in. One is retail. Retail cooperatives are types of consumer cooperatives which help create retail stores to benefit the consumer making the retail our store. They allow consumers the opportunity to supply their own needs, gain bargaining power, and share earnings. Examples of retail stores are hardware, like Ace Hardware, food co-ops, agricultural products, and even movie theaters. Number 2 is worker cooperatives. Members of the worker cooperatives are both employees of the business as well as the owners of the cooperative. This is one of the fastest growing segments of cooperative owned businesses. How many of you working develop worker owned cooperatives?
Could you repeat that question?
How many of you are working on developing worker-owned cooperatives?
Well, we're in the design phase, and originally that was the idea. It's not that, it can't be done. It's just that life keeps getting in the way to organize people to say, come together, let's organize as workers. So I don't know what we'll do, but definitely that's one of the options to seriously design out and see whether or not it would work for us.
Yeah. My experience in worker-owned cooperatives is that people drop in and drop out. People drop in and drop out, but there's always a core group of people who are there to keep it going. And so once you identify the core group of leaders and workers in a worker-owned cooperative, irregardless of who comes in and who leaves, the core group manifests the work of the worker-owned cooperative. And so I would say that, expect the transition. Expect transition of people coming in and coming out. But when you get to the point of recognizing that you are a single focus of organizing the co-op, then that's when the blessings come. The blessings come. The blessings do come. But it takes time. Like everything else, it takes time to build the work around a cooperative, particularly worker cooperative. It takes time. It takes work. Because not only you can be an employee, you can be an owner as well, and that sometimes is challenging to individuals. Sometimes it can make challenges. So worker cooperatives, like bakeries, retail stores, software development company, aquaculture, all these are examples of worker-owned cooperatives. And the one that we really focus on is the food cooperative, the food grocery store cooperative, and that's really earmark of the work of looking at cooperatives. All right. So producer cooperatives, they produce products. They produce products, arts and crafts, agricultural products, they produce products. The fourth is service cooperatives, child care, healthcare, and the fifth is housing cooperatives, where people share in ownership of a housing project, and and I don't know why that we don't have more Black folks working on housing cooperatives, because it's a great way of controlling your housing costs. Also, it's a great way of building equity to either move into single family home ownership or equity in terms of long-term ownership in a cooperative. All right. Okay. Some cooperative movements that I've noted is Ujamaa Collective, Mandela Grocery Store, Detroit Food Co-op, which just opened this year after years of organizing they finally opened their food store, and it's really great. If you get a chance, those who are up in that area of the country, go visit Detroit Food Co-op. It's a wonderful, wonderful space. And of course, Cooperation Jackson, which is in Jackson, Mississippi, and they're building a cooperative space for local government to engage in supporting cooperative work. Are any cities or counties or localities that have a Black owned cooperative operating?
Yes, in the city of Buffalo, we have the African Heritage Co-op that's operating here in the city of Buffalo. It has some problems and some issues, but have overcome some of them. So we're beginning to run smoothly now and smoother now. So we do have the African Heritage Co-op that we do have here in Buffalo.
Good, great. Anybody else that's in a locality with a Black owned and managed cooperative? So that's the work we got to do. That's why you're here. That's why you're here. Yep.
I forgot. In Atlanta, we have 7 Under. It's been operating for over 20, 30 years here in Atlanta.
Great.
And very successful.
The thing about cooperatives that usually you talk about bringing people together who have not been working together, who now are being asked to form a business and at the same time get to know each other. It's a kind of challenging space to be in. Very challenging space to be in. When you have to work with someone that you don't know, and yet you're dependent on them to grow your business. Yeah. Yep.
I had a question.
Go ahead.
So I was thinking, and it's not really a Black owned that I know of, but in the DC area they have like the Douglas Community Land Trust.
Oh yes.
And I was wondering what the difference between that and a co-op is.
Well, a land trust is primarily established to not be a cooperative in the sense of ownership, but a land trust is there to own land and keep it in perpetuity in terms of the use of the land. That's what a land trust is established to do. Keep in perpetuity.
But I mean, my understanding is that they do have like community membership and control and kind of like a democratic operation.
Well, there's some aspects of cooperative work. Yes, some aspects of cooperatives. But the main source of the land trust is to keep land in perpetuity for future use and govern the use of the land. But yeah, but some land trusts do adopt cooperative principles and adopt cooperative structures as well. Okay. Some institutional cooperative businesses, some of these you may be familiar with: Blue Diamond, Almonds, Ace Hardware, Gold Chris, Ocean Spray, Land O'Lakes. They're all are major institutional cooperative businesses that are owned by the workers, and some of them you may question how they operate as cooperatives, but they are cooperatives. All right. All right. Okay. Okay. Questions, comments?
Yeah, I did want to just briefly just share in response to Naima's question. I do feel like there is a lot of overlapping and synergy around community land trust and cooperatives in the various forms. The histories around that community land trust are very similar and very much rooted in the South. We even can look to the King family with Martin Luther King, but also his brother Slater King were very instrumental in starting what became the first community land trust in Albany, Georgia. But like Ron said, um, community land trusts are really kind of held up to keep housing, keep land in perpetuity and affordability, usually through like a 99 ground lease. But I do think there is a lot of like overlapping connection there. And there are like forming commercial community land trusts as well as there are like housing land trusts too.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. All right. Any more comments, questions?
I just wanted to say that I did just left Detroit in August, and I got a chance to see the Detroit People's Co-op, and it is such an inspiration.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
took so many pictures to bring back so us, keep the dream alive. This is what our goal is. They took 15 years, but
Yeah.
hopefully we can do a shorter time period than that. But it is beautiful. And they have 2 levels. The upstairs, they have 4
Yeah.
kitchens. Okay, so it is really community oriented, for caterers and any kind of functions that the community wants to have.
Yeah. And there's separate ownership too. The upstairs is owned by the nonprofit. And the downstairs is owned by the co-op.
Yeah. So they're supporting each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Really beautiful, really, really wonderful testimony to what is real, what is capable, what we're capable of doing. All right. Any more questions? Comments? All right. Well, I'll be making this PowerPoint available to you. You'll get it sometime next week. You have I don't have the schedule with me, but you have a presentation coming up next week. So let me see something. Let me. Okay, next week you have Charmaine Davis, who will be talking about financial clarity for cooperative, mastering revenue and expense statements. So you can look forward to having a real engaged session next week with Charmaine. So yeah. Have everybody had a chance to view the videos that were sent out? All right. Hello.
Yeah, I watched them. They were really good.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, spend some time looking through them. They're really informative. Give you really some more information and on cooperatives and the formation of them. Because I think that's really important, just to again to educate yourself about how you want to move to how you want to educate yourself to move and grow your cooperatively owned businesses. And give you some realistic time frames in terms of how you can manifest the work around building out your cooperatively owned businesses. If there's no other questions, is there any other questions before I conclude this session? All right, okay. Well, it's been my pleasure to share with you this evening. Hopefully that you gained something from my presentation and something useful, something that's meaningful. I look forward to participating with you over the next 12 weeks. I'll be in the background, but feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. And I'll see you all next Thursday. Have a great evening, a great week, and I'll talk with you next week.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Take care.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you.
valuable.
Bye. Take